Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today I'm going to be talking about Gods of the Fall. Okay, so Gods of the Fall is a setting specifically for the Cypher system. What I'm going to be reviewing today is Gods of the Fall 1E First Edition. There is only one edition. Just wanted to talk about that. So Gods of the Fall came out from Monty Cook Games in the year 2016. And it was created by Bruce R. Cordell. The setting itself, Gods of the Fall, is 193 pages. Bruce R. Cordell, he also wrote The Strange. The cartographer for this game was Jared Blando. The content within this video, I am going to be talking specifically about the player character options within Gods of the Fall, and my review for that player character option. What are the options for a player to create a player character within Gods of the Fall? Okay, so that's the scope of this video. All right, so let's talk about it. All right, so it's very interesting. Let's talk about the setting itself briefly, okay? Because the setting is very, very intricate and detailed. And within this video, I'm just going to be talking about the player characters options within Gods of the Fall. So what is Gods of the Fall? Well, there was a world called Elehentar, okay? And it was a perfect, pretty much a perfect world, a near perfect world where a whole bunch of gods lived. And it fell to the world below it, okay? And it created the Eye of Elehentar. Now, the Eye of Elehentar is essentially the impact site of Elehentar, where it landed on the world. Okay? And when this happened, the gods died, and the world lost hope. Okay? So, essentially, this is an attempt from Bruce R. Cordell to create a game where you can play a god. And he's very clear about that. He's like, you know, your player character option is to play a god. All right, so let's talk about what you can do. So how do you do that? So one, this game comes from the Cypher system. And the Cypher system is it's like a GURPS-like universal role-playing system, tabletop role-playing game. By the way, this is completely a tabletop role-playing game. And essentially, Cypher system has this really unique build philosophy, which is descriptor type who focuses. All right, descriptor type who focuses. So let me give you an example of that in this game. So in this game specifically, that would be a chaotic shaper who revels in trickery. Okay, so chaotic would be the descriptor, the type would be shaper, and then the focus would be revels in trickery. Okay, now this is really interesting because every single aspect of those three items specifically comes down to a mechanical impact on your player character. And it's one of the coolest things of the Cypher system. By the way, this is my review of Gods of the Fall. Here's my review of Cypher system. It's awesome! Like, I absolutely love the Cypher system. I think it's one of the best things in all of tabletop role-playing games. It's incredibly flexible. It is created by an absolute genius, Monty Cook, who worked on 3rd edition Dungeons & Dragons, and then came in for 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons, and then dropped out in the middle of the build of Dungeons & Dragons. That's an event I call the Cook Cleave. You could write books on that event alone. But so I just want to give you a context of where this game falls. This is like everything Monty Cook Games does is important to the tabletop role-playing game industry because Monty Cook is so important because Monty Cook himself is so important to the tabletop role-playing game industry. He's literally a titan within the industry, okay? And like Bruce R. Cordell is like one of his minions, right? He's got a few other minions like Shauna Germain and Sean Reynolds, and like now he wouldn't call them minions, and none of them would like to be referred to as minions. When I say minions, like he's the high-end super brain of that whole area, and he's hiring them. They're literally his subordinates, right? I'm not trying to be dismissive with the term minion there, but they're not at his level. I'll say that flat out. None of them would say that, but I'll say that. Monty Cook. I think Monty Cook was really integral in what happened with 5th edition, and that if he had stayed on that team, 5th edition would have gone into it. Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition would have gone into a different direction. Entire books can be written on that topic alone, and I think they will be. I really do think there will be like scholastic breakdowns of what happened in that event, right? Very interesting topic, but let's stay on target. Stay on target, right? All right, so let's talk it through. All right, so let's dig into it. So descriptor, type, who focuses. So let's talk about the descriptors that are in Gods of the Fall. So here's the descriptors. Beneficent is a descriptor, so they want to benefit everyone. Chaotic, that one's self-descriptive. Most of these are descriptive. Gluttonous, lawful, and wary. Wary is a really interesting, cool one. Now these are all descriptors that are specific to the Gods of the Fall setting. Okay. By the way, what's the structure of this game? 300-page. So what do you need to play this? 300-page Cypher rules system. Okay. It'll cost you $60 or $20 for the hardcover, and it'll cost you $20 for the PDF. And then this game itself is a 193, rounded off to 200-page setting. So you're reading 500 pages of content to play in this world, right? It's totally worth it. I think, especially I'm a big fan of Cypher. I'm in the middle of my review for my opinions on Gods of the Fall is complex, but I'm starting to unfold them, so we'll keep going here. These descriptors are specific and brand new and unique to Gods of the Fall. Okay, you can go back and apply descriptors that are in the base game to your god, right? So that's kind of interesting. Your player character god. That's pretty interesting. All right. What are the character types? So let's talk about them. This game has 4 character types, and those character types are Shaper and Savior, Destroyer and Champion. All right. So let's talk about Shaper and Savior. So Shapers and Saviors are both sorcerers. Destroyers and Champions are both warriors. Okay. The Shapers are sorcerers who use bibliomancy, which is specifically spells from books. Okay. The Saviors are sorcerers who care more about others than themselves. It's interesting. Okay. The Destroyer is a warrior who does long-range combat. Okay. The Champion is a warrior who excels specifically at prowess, right? And so prowess and so essentially prowess and ability to fight. So a champion is like kind of is a really unique fighter. Okay, all right. So those are your character types, right? I'm going to review each section. So what do I think of the descriptors? Descriptors are very interesting. I think there's a short list of descriptors in here. There are. I think it's okay to bring in those other descriptors from the previous game, but it gets a little bit challenging. It's like Lego blocks that you're connecting together. It's always I really wish that overall that Command Cook Games had really delivered Gods of the Fall not as a source book setting, but as a fully formed game, baking in all the content from the other book. So I think that was a missed opportunity, personally. Okay. The other thing is one of the things is if you're looking at it, they're looking at player characters as gods. You're looking at Shaper, Destroyer, Savior, and Champion, right? Very interesting. Now, I think where they're going with this is they're looking at gods from the perspective of kind of a worldview, right, in different cultures. I think it was very bold of them to try to put the Savior type in as a player character. That's a high. That's bold is the best word I can use, right? Okay. I think it was courageous of them to attempt it. Now, what do I think of these character types? Well, one of the issues is once you start dealing with these character types, Shaper, Destroyer, Savior, and Champion, the moment you put in Savior in there, I really feel like the second you touch that word, Savior, I think with any of the other ones, you could have absolutely gone down this road where you're creating a role-playing game, and all the player characters are playing people who are gods, small g, and they literally use the small g in the book. But when you put Savior, right, that doesn't match, right? So I think you would have had to change the entire structure of the tabletop role-playing game and to do this properly. And Savior doesn't fit with any of the other types, right? So basically, I think you would have had to have one player play the Savior, and you would have had to have every single one of the other players. Either you would have had to make it a one-on-one between the Dungeon Master and the player, or you would have logically had to made every single other player be subordinate to that one player. And that would be very challenging and very difficult. But I want to say right now, Bruce R. Cordell is making a game where you play gods as player characters. You're in the deep end of the pool, right? Like, and you jumped off of a 60-foot, diving platform to get there. Like, this was not, I think he knew from the gate that this was going to be incredibly difficult to do, right? And it was a hard game to build. All right, so I think that was a problem. I think that he should never have touched that word, or the entire game should have been about that word, because it doesn't fit with any of the other. Because frankly, I'll say it, right? Savior matches with big G, and all the others match with small g. Period. End of sentence, right? And I think that was a bobble. Like, somebody threw the 70-yard pass, and he caught it and dropped it. Like, he should never have touched that word, in my opinion, because it's not like the rest. And it also brings out the idea of, okay, here it is, right? When you go to create a game where you're going to make gods player characters, you have two choices, right? You can elevate, you could take the tabletop role-playing game and the idea and concept of a tabletop role-playing game, and you can elevate it to the divine. Or you can take fantasy, or you can take the idea of divinity, of gods themselves, and yank them down to the fantasy and the super genre of tabletop role-playing games. And that's what Bruce R. Cordell did. And so by touching the word Savior and bobbling it, not managing it correctly, you have a problem there, right? And so I really feel like that was a critical mistake within the game. All right, let's talk about foci, right? So there are 4 unique foci within the game for these, which were, finds flaw in all things, revels in trickery, speaks curses, and walks with the night, which I thought were interesting, right? And again, you can bring in focuses from the other game, from the Cypher from the Cypher system itself, which is 300 pages, that's lots of foci, right? What are some of the other things that attach to these player characters? Well, another one is each of the gods has dominion, and they actually expand their dominion as they go forward. So there's wisdom, thievery, rulership, water, justice, messenger, and a whole host of others. There was no less than 30 dominions. Okay, and so the dominions were interesting. They made logical sense. I thought it was a good way to mechanically approach this. The nimbus. So each player character has a nimbus. A nimbus is their divine aura, which other divine creatures can see. That's one of the other things that I thought was really really problematic about this game. Not problematic. I think it was this game, and it's not just Bruce R. Cordell that's had this problem. Everybody wants to put, how do we have player characters who are gods, right? Well, you have that choice. Do you elevate tabletop role-playing games to the level where you're actually playing divines? Or do you just grab the divine and yank it down to the fantasy and the super level? And they really went with the second. And honestly, I think every tabletop role-playing game that's ever attempted this has done the same. No one has done this right yet. I do have respect for his attempt and for his failure, but in some ways, and I don't want to say this was completely a failure. I think it was a critical mistake to touch the word Savior. It doesn't match with the other words, right? And so because it is big G and not small g like the rest of them, and so it's interesting. All right, so divine characters can see this nimbus, but non-divine cannot. Okay. One of the ways the game dealt with level is they have this thing called divine shift. So a level in this game is called a divine shift, and they put a lot of words around it to make it feel like it's not a level. It's absolutely leveling. The player characters also have obligations, tasks to which they are obligated to do to awaken their divine abilities. Kind of interesting, right? And then also, let's talk about awakening. So within this game, your character is awakening, right? And so they're revealing divine abilities, or they're revealing facts about their divine history. Very, very interesting. So, also, what are the races within this game? And they are referred to as races. That's a relic in a lot of tabletop role playing. Even 2016, nobody figured out that that word is swiftly on the way out and will probably never be used in any top level TRPG in the future. It's always going to be ancestry, lineage, all those going forward, right? But they are referred to as races in this game. I'm saying that so that you know I'm not referring to them as races. The game referred to them as races. Human would you know what a human is, right? Your divine person can be human. They can also be Sleen. Sleen are these kind of giant people. They're like 7 to 9 feet tall, and they're eyeless. They reminded me a little bit of Nephilim, from Genesis 6. And then Terran are the next race, and they are snake humanoids. Really kind of interesting. So that is the full sweep of the player character options within Gods of the Fall, in my opinion, on how they were executed. I will say this: I props to Bruce R. Cordell for tackling this. I mean, it's been no pun intended, the holy grail for a long time for people to say, okay, how do we have player characters play gods? And it's even been attempted in Dungeons and Dragons with epic level characters, and I don't think it's ever really been mastered. I don't think it's done right, and it's quite possible it cannot be done right. Right? I'm a huge fan of the Cypher system. I love that this game is continuing to allow the Cypher system to grow. I love that this is putting more value under the Monty Cook Games banner and under Monty Cook himself. So that's my take on the player character options within Gods of the Fall by Bruce R. Cordell, created by Monty Cook Games. Take care. And please consider liking and subscribing. Thank you.